The crystal wine glasses caught the light from my parents' Victorian mansion's chandelier as I adjusted my simple black sweater dress. Nothing designer, nothing flashy, just clean lines and good fabric. The kind of understated elegance that my family had never learned to recognize, too busy chasing logos and brand names to understand real quality. I'm Victoria Blake, though my family still calls me Vicky, like I'm 12 years old. At 33, I'm the family disappointment who dropped out of law school to pursue what they call my little hobby business. The daughter who chose to work from her apartment instead of climbing corporate ladders or marrying well like my sister Charlotte. Vicky, darling, my mother called from the dining room, her voice carrying that familiar note of concern mixed with embarrassment. Could you help bring in the dessert? And please try to mingle more. The Weatherbys are here and their son Jonathan just made partner at his father's firm. I smiled, continuing to arrange the Christmas cookies on the silver platter. Jonathan Weatherby, who'd been trying to ask me out since college despite my complete lack of interest. Another suitable match in my mother's endless campaign to save me from myself. The dining room was already full when I entered. Extended family friends and various members of our parents' social circle, all gathered for the annual Christmas dinner that served more as a networking event than a family celebration. Everyone dressed in their holiday finest, comparing recent purchases and discussing their children's achievements. There she is. My sister Charlotte waved me over to the main table, her diamond bracelet catching the light. At 35, she was everything my parents wanted in a daughter. Married to a hedge fund manager, living in Connecticut, mother of two perfectly behaved children who attended the right private schools. I took my assigned seat between Aunt Patricia and Cousin James, both of whom immediately began their usual interrogation about my life choices. So Vicky, Aunt Patricia began, her voice dripping with false concern, how's the online business going? Still selling those little outfits? It's fashion design, Aunt Patricia. And yes, it's going well. James laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. Fashion design. Come on, Vic. You ship clothes from overseas and mark them up. That's not design, that's basic retail arbitrage. If he only knew that I'd been designing every piece myself, that my little outfits were being worn by A-list celebrities who discovered my work through private stylists, that my basic retail operation had quietly revolutionized sustainable fashion manufacturing. Now, James, my mother intervened, though her tone suggested she agreed with his assessment. Vicky's trying her best. We all have to find our own path even if it's not traditional. Charlotte set down her wine glass with practiced precision. Speaking of paths, Jonathan Weatherby was asking about you again, Vicky. He's doing so well at the firm and he's such a catch. I took a sip of my wine, a 2018 Bordeaux that I'd brought myself, though no one had bothered to ask about it. I'm not interested in Jonathan, Charlotte. I'm focused on my work. Work, my father repeated from the head of the table, his voice carrying the weight of years of disappointment. Vicky, you're 33 years old. When are you going to stop playing dress up and consider a real career? The table went quiet, all eyes turning to me. This was the moment they'd all been waiting for, the annual intervention disguised as family concern. Your cousin David just bought his second home, Uncle Robert added helpfully. Real estate investment. Building actual wealth. And Charlotte's husband just got promoted again, my mother chimed in. Managing director now. They're looking at houses in the Hamptons. I remained silent, used to these comparisons by now. They happened at every family gathering. Someone would decide it was time to shame me into abandoning my dreams and embracing their version of success. The thing is, Charlotte continued, her voice taking on that particular tone that meant she thought she was being helpful. Online businesses aren't really sustainable. They're just hobbies that occasionally make money. You need something with real security, real growth potential. Like what? I asked quietly. Well, she gestured around the table. Look at everyone here. James is in finance, David's in real estate, Jonathan's in law. These are careers that matter, that build generational wealth. Still selling clothes online? Charlotte's voice suddenly rose, loud enough that conversations at nearby tables paused. Like some teenager with an Etsy shop? The room fell silent except for the soft Christmas music playing in the background. I could feel the weight of their collective judgment, their shared certainty that I was wasting my life on childish pursuits. Charlotte, please, my father murmured, not so loud. but she was emboldened by what she perceived as family support, her voice carrying clearly across the dining room. Everyone here is building something real, contributing to society, creating actual value. And you're still playing with fabric samples and selling clothes to strangers on the internet. I quietly sipped my wine, watching the faces around the table. Some looked embarrassed by Charlotte's outburst, others nodded in agreement. My mother just looked sad, as if watching her daughter's life slip away one failed business decision at a time. Right then my phone rang. The distinctive ringtone I'd assigned to business calls cut through the ambient noise of Christmas dinner conversation. I glanced at the screen. Sophia Martinez, New York Fashion Week coordinator. The timing was either perfect or disastrous depending on your perspective. I should take this, I said calmly. Oh please, Charlotte scoffed. Another customer complaining about a delayed shipment? Without hesitation I put the call on speaker, holding the phone up so everyone at the table could hear clearly. Miss Blake, this is Sophia Martinez from New York Fashion Week. I'm calling because Vogue wants to feature your billion-dollar empire. Their jaws dropped. The entire dining room went silent. Not just our table. The whole room seemed to pause, as if someone had pressed mute on Christmas dinner itself. The Christmas music continued playing, but no one seemed to hear it. Sophia's voice continued through the speaker, professional and excited. Anna Wintour herself approved the cover story. They're calling it The Invisible Revolution: How Victoria Blake Built Fashion's Most Sustainable Empire in Secret. The photo shoot is scheduled for January 3rd at their Manhattan studio. Charlotte's wine glass tilted in her hand, Bordeaux spilling onto the white tablecloth unnoticed. James's mouth hung open like he was trying to catch flies. Aunt Patricia blinked rapidly, as if her brain was refusing to process the information. Sophia, I said calmly, can we discuss the interview details tomorrow? I'm at a family dinner. Of course, Victoria. I just wanted to confirm that Forbes will also be running their feature next week. The $1.2 billion fashion disruptor who changed everything. Your publicist mentioned you'd be unavailable tonight, but the editors are incredibly excited about both pieces. I ended the call and looked around the table at their stunned faces. The silence stretched for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Billion, Uncle Robert whispered finally. Vogue cover, my mother repeated as if testing the words. Charlotte had gone completely pale. The sister who'd spent the last 10 minutes lecturing me about real careers and sustainable businesses looked like she might need medical attention. Victoria, Aunt Patricia's voice was barely audible. What exactly do you sell? I slipped my phone back into my purse, straightening my simple sweater dress. Sustainable fashion, Aunt Patricia. The little outfits you've been dismissing? They're worn by half the celebrities you see on red carpets. The online hobby? It's the largest eco-friendly fashion platform in the world. The nearby tables had started whispering, putting together pieces of the conversation they'd overheard. Social media was probably already buzzing with fragments of the call, speculation about the mysterious Vogue cover story that had just been announced at a Christmas dinner. But, James stammered, you work from home. You don't have an office. Actually, I have 12 manufacturing facilities across 4 countries, I corrected gently. And headquarters in Soho that I bought last year. The home office was just for privacy while I built everything. Charlotte finally found her voice. You've been lying to us. No, I said firmly. I've been working. The difference is, you never asked what I was actually building. You just assumed that because you didn't understand it, it couldn't be valuable. I stood up, smoothing my dress, which ironically, was one of my own designs, though none of them would have recognized it. The teenager with an Etsy shop has built the fastest-growing sustainable fashion company in history. We've eliminated 2.3 million pounds of textile waste this year alone. As I walked toward the living room, I could hear the explosion of whispered conversations behind me. Questions, denials, desperate attempts to understand how the family failure had secretly become more successful than all of them combined. Vicky, wait. My father's voice stopped me at the doorway. I turned back to face the table full of shocked relatives and family friends. Yes, Dad. How long? He asked quietly. How long have you been building a billion-dollar company? About 8 years. Since I dropped out of law school, actually. The rest of Christmas dinner passed in a blur of shocked stares and hurried conversations. Word had spread quickly through the party. The family disappointment wasn't just successful. She was the mysterious fashion mogul that industry publications had been trying to identify for months. Jonathan Weatherby found me near the Christmas tree, his confident demeanor replaced by something resembling awe. "Victoria, I had no idea. The things they were saying about your business." I smiled, sipping my wine. "Were pretty accurate, actually. I do sell clothes online. I just do it at a scale they never imagined." "I mean $1 billion, he said, shaking his head. "And Vogue wants to put you on their cover." "It's not about the money, Jonathan. It's about building something that matters. Fashion that doesn't destroy the planet, manufacturing that doesn't exploit workers, business practices that prove you can be profitable and ethical simultaneously." As the evening wound down, I found myself in my father's study, reviewing emails on my phone while he nursed a brandy and tried to process the evening's revelations. $1 billion, he said for the third time. $1.2 billion according to the latest valuation, I corrected, not looking up from my phone. "Though that's just the company value. The real impact is in the supply chain transformation we've achieved." "We never knew," he said quietly. "All these years we thought you were struggling." "I was struggling," I admitted. "Just not financially. Do you know how hard it is to revolutionize an entire industry while your own family thinks you're a failure?" He was quiet for a long moment. "We should have believed in you." "Maybe. But would you have? Or would you have tried to convince me to take a safer path, to get that law degree, to marry Jonathan and settle into the life you wanted for me?" The question hung in the air between us. We both knew the answer. "What happens now?" he asked finally. I looked up from my phone, meeting his eyes. "Now I go back to work. The Vogue piece will bring more attention than I've ever wanted, but it's good for the company. More visibility means more impact. And us? Your family?" I considered the question carefully. "That depends. Are you ready to see me for who I am instead of who you thought I should be?" 2 weeks later, I sat in Vogue's Manhattan photography studio, surrounded by racks of my designs while Annie Leibovitz adjusted lighting for the cover shoot. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was still working with clothes, still focused on fabric and design, just as I had been when they dismissed it as a hobby. "The sustainable angle is perfect," Anna Winter said, reviewing the preliminary shots on her assistant's tablet. "Fashion needs more leaders like you, people who prove that ethics and profitability aren't mutually exclusive." My phone buzzed with a text from Charlotte. "Saw the Forbes early release online. Mom's crying happy tears. Dad's showing the article to everyone at the country club. I'm sorry, Vicky. Really sorry." I smiled, tucking the phone away as the photographer called for the next setup. The apology felt genuine, born from understanding rather than social pressure. "Ready for the next look?" Annie asked. I nodded, walking toward the rack of designs I'd created over the past 8 years. Each piece told a story, not just of fashion but of innovation, sustainability, and the quiet persistence required to build something meaningful while everyone around you saw only failure. The cover story would hit newsstands next week, officially ending my anonymity but amplifying my platform. The hobby business my family had mocked was about to become the face of fashion's sustainable future. As I changed into the next outfit, a jacket made from recycled ocean plastic that had taken 2 years to perfect, I thought about that girl who dropped out of law school to chase an impossible dream. She'd been building this moment one stitch at a time, one sustainable innovation at a time, one small victory at a time. The camera flashes began, capturing images that would soon appear on magazine covers worldwide. But the real picture was bigger than any photograph could show. It was the story of an industry transformed, an economy reimagined, and a family finally learning to see success in forms they'd never expected. That evening, I returned to my Soho headquarters, the 12-story building that my family had never known existed. The design studios were empty now, but the walls were covered with sketches, fabric samples, and prototypes that represented the future of sustainable fashion. My assistant knocked on the office door. "The Times wants to schedule a follow-up interview about the Vogue piece. And your mother called, she wants to tour the facilities next week." I looked up from the sustainability reports I was reviewing, surprised by that last request. "My mother wants a tour?" "She said she wants to understand what you've built. Really understand this time." The transformation in our relationship had been gradual but genuine. Once the family got over their initial shock, Some of them had made real efforts to learn about sustainable fashion, to see the value in what I'd built rather than just the money it had generated. Charlotte had started buying exclusively from ethical brands. My father had begun investing his clients' portfolios in ESG funds. Even Aunt Patricia had joined a local environmental group, telling everyone about her niece who was saving the planet one dress at a time. "Schedule the tour for Thursday," I said. "And make sure she sees the manufacturing floor. I want her to understand that this isn't just about clothes, it's about changing how things are made." As I worked late into the evening, reviewing designs for next season's collection, I reflected on the strange journey from family disappointment to industry leader. The hobby business that had started with a sewing machine in my apartment was now employing over 3,000 people worldwide, all committed to proving that fashion could be beautiful, profitable, and responsible. My phone buzzed with a message from James. "Vicky, I've been thinking about what you said at Christmas. My firm wants to discuss sustainable investing strategies. Would you be willing to consult on a project?" I typed back, "I'd be happy to help. But James, it's Victoria now. The person who builds billion-dollar companies gets to choose what she's called." His response came quickly, "Understood. And Victoria, I'm proud to be your cousin." That night, driving home to my penthouse apartment, purchased through the same holding company I'd used to buy the headquarters, I thought about the power of persistence. About the importance of building something meaningful even when no one else sees its value. The sustainable fashion platform that had started as mysterious online sales was now reshaping an entire industry, proving that consumers wanted beautiful clothes that didn't harm the planet. Every organic cotton shirt, every recycled polyester dress, every innovative fabric made from agricultural waste represented a small victory against fast fashion's environmental destruction. But the technology and innovation were just tools. The real revolution had been in persistence, in continuing to build something meaningful despite being consistently underestimated by the people who should have supported me most. My phone rang as I pulled into my building's garage. The caller ID showed my mother's number. "Hi, Mom. Victoria, I just finished reading the Forbes article online. The part about you developing that new fabric from orange peels, how did you even think of that?" I smiled, hearing genuine curiosity in her voice for the first time in years. "Research, Mom. Lots of research and lots of failed experiments. Innovation is mostly just persistence with better documentation." "I'm proud of you," she said quietly. "Not just for the success but for sticking to your values even when we didn't understand them." "Thanks, Mom. That means everything." "The tour on Thursday. Can I bring your father? He's been reading everything he can find about sustainable manufacturing. I think he's finally starting to understand what you've built." I laughed, remembering the man who'd once dismissed my work as playing dress-up. "Of course. Bring Dad. Bring anyone who wants to see how real change happens." After we hung up, I sat in my car for a moment, looking up at the Manhattan skyline through my sunroof. Somewhere in those lights were my manufacturing facilities, my design studios, my retail partners. The little hobby had become an empire, but more importantly, it had become proof that business could be a force for positive change. 6 months after the Christmas dinner that changed everything, I stood backstage at the Met Gala, adjusting the final details on Emma Stone's gown, a creation made entirely from recycled materials that would be featured in tomorrow's sustainability exhibits at the Metropolitan Museum. "5 minutes, Ms. Blake," the stage manager called out. I smiled, thinking about the girl who'd once been mocked for playing with fabric samples. Tonight, those samples had become art, worn by one of Hollywood's brightest stars at fashion's most prestigious event. My phone buzzed with a group text from my family, all watching the live stream from my parents' house. "Charlotte, OMG, Emma looks stunning. Dad, so proud of our Victoria. Mom, you're changing the world, sweetheart." Even James had sent a photo from his firm's viewing party, where he was apparently explaining sustainable investing to his colleagues while they watched me work with celebrities on the red carpet. As Emma stepped onto the Met Gala carpet, wearing a dress that proved sustainability and glamour weren't mutually exclusive, I thought about the strange journey from family disappointment to fashion revolutionary. The cameras flashed, capturing not just a beautiful gown but a statement about the future of fashion. Every photograph would carry the message that beautiful clothes didn't have to cost the earth, that innovation and ethics could create more value than traditional manufacturing ever had. Later that night, at the after-party in my honor hosted by Vogue to celebrate sustainable fashion's growing influence, I found myself surrounded by industry leaders, environmental activists, and celebrities who'd all embraced the mission of conscious consumption. Anna Wintour approached with a champagne flute and a smile. "Victoria, tonight's coverage will reach over 200 million people worldwide. The conversation about sustainable fashion has officially gone mainstream." I accepted the champagne, looking around at the room full of people who'd once dismissed eco-friendly fashion as a niche market. "It's not about the coverage, Anna. It's about the change. Every person who chooses sustainability over fast fashion is a victory." "Spoken like someone who truly understands the power of patience," she replied. "You've proven that the most revolutionary changes often happen quietly, built by people others underestimate." As the evening wound down, I stepped onto the museum's terrace, looking out over Central Park and the city beyond. Somewhere in those lights were factories running on renewable energy, workers earning fair wages, and customers wearing clothes that reflected their values rather than just their budgets. The hobby business my family had mocked was now a movement, proving that success isn't just about profits. It's about creating positive change while building something sustainable and meaningful. My phone buzzed with one final message of the night from Charlotte. "Watching you tonight, I finally understand what you've been building all these years. It was never about the clothes. It was about changing the world. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it." I smiled, tucking the phone away as I headed back inside. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new innovations to develop, new ways to prove that business could be both profitable and purposeful. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't proving others wrong. It's showing them that success comes in forms they never imagined, built by people they never saw coming, using methods they never understood until it was impossible to ignore the results. The girl with the sewing machine had become the woman with the vision. And fashion, finally, was becoming beautiful in every sense of the word.